Hello world, my name is John and this is part 4 of my life story. Uh, I need to mention again that these recordings are unedited and unscripted, and they are not necessarily in chronological order, so I am going back and forth in time, and hopefully in the end it's gonna make some kind of sense. So in my last recording I was mostly talking about the Hurricane Matthew, and that at one point when I was working on that house, I went on vacation, and this vacation is also related to my health problems that I was talking about in my previous video. So on July 7th, 2016, when I dropped everything, and I've decided I've had enough of the drywall and plastering clusterfuck, and I couldn't do this anymore. I just dropped all the tools and I just packed and took a vacation. Okay, uh, I unloaded all the crap out of my van and cleaned it up, and I put mattress in my van. I loaded, necessary things that I would need to live in my van. I got a big cooler for my beers and alcohol, because I've decided I'm gonna drink myself out of this clusterfuck. All I'll be doing at the beach, I'll be drinking and surfing and partying. Okay, so I loaded up my surfboard, my GoPro cameras, my camera, um, and I just left. Uh, okay, I went to the Outer Banks. That's kind of my spot. Uh, Kill Devil Hills and Nag's Head and Corolla. Uh, that's kind of my spot because I used to live there for about 2 or 3 years. I had an apartment there, but I'll get to it later. So ever since a certain uh, period of time of my life, Outer Banks, it's kind of my spot, and so I went there. I know that I can relax there, I can chill, I can live in my van. I can sleep in my van and nobody's gonna be bothering me, which probably wouldn't be the case if I go to Miami or some other busy place. So I went to Outer Banks, and I slept in my van while I was surfing and drinking and smoking. And I actually only ended up surfing just a few days. Uh, every time there was a low tide, I checked the tide times, and I found me a place to surf. I'm not a good surfer. I'm just a immature surfer, so I ain't no good. So small waves are good for me. No big waves. No big waves for me, please. But anyway, I only surfed a few days because when I was laying down on the surfboard, it kind of hurt my ribs. Okay, I don't know what happened to my rib cage, but one day when I was surfing with all the other surfers by the I think it was Nag's Head Pier, and I was laying down on the surfboard and paddling, trying to get up to speed, and the rib cage starting me hurting so bad that I couldn't do it anymore. And there's also a funny story tied to this injury, if I can call it injury. And also at one day I broke my finger. This one, I broke this little joint. It's still not healed. It's still broken. So I've had it broken for ever since that day, 2016, July 2016. And what happened was I grabbed the leash close to the board, and I was pulling the surfboard behind me, and then wave came and kind of flipped the board, and my finger got caught between the leash and the board, and I just heard it snap, and it hurt as a motherfucker. And I think that was it. I couldn't surf anymore because of that finger and because of those ribs. So I was just drinking and going to bars and places. And one day I went to eat lunch to a restaurant, the Kelly's tavern or whatever it's called, the Kelly's. And I got me a nice lunch. It's on steak or whatever, and I know there's a bunch of students coming from another countries to work there, the seasonal jobs during the summer. And I saw this girl. She was nice looking girl, and I know there's students coming from Russia and other countries, but this girl was actually from Czech Republic, from Czechia, from where I'm from. And I asked her about Wi-Fi because I didn't have Wi-Fi on my phone. I didn't have data anymore because I couldn't afford paying for a cell phone. So I actually disconnected my cell phone carrier. And I asked her if they got a Wi-Fi, and she said in Czech, Wi-Fi. She didn't say Wi-Fi, she said Wi-Fi. And I knew she wasn't from. I kind of suspected that she might be from Czech, so I asked her where she's from, and she said she's from Czech. Okay, so then I started speaking Czech to her, and we kind of started talking and that, and then we then we hooked up. There was also another. She had also another friend, girlfriend, working there together, and then we got together. I think the same day or the next day, I don't know. And we went out and actually to Cali's, where she worked at. There's also a nightclub, and we drank, and it was a lot of fun. The first night that we actually been talking, it was fun. Okay, we had some fun, and I was telling her like who I am, what I do, where I'm from, and I got a little bit drunk, and she thought that I'm kind of like a drunk person, but I don't usually drink. I only drink when I need to fall asleep or whatever, just very occasionally. So I'm not an alcoholic, okay? And she probably figured I'm an alcoholic, and she decided to not talk to me anymore. And I really wanted to hang out with those people because I was so lonely. It was just me by myself with all my troubles, with my house failure, and I didn't have I at that time when I was there at the beach, I only had like $800 left out of my $340,000 that I had before. I only had $800 left, and that was it. And I didn't know what's next. And at the same time, actually, I was trying to sell the house already, what I was mentioning before, and I was with my agent. I actually was selling the house through an agent, and I was with her uh, also in touch over the FaceTime when I was there on the beach. I remember I spoke with her a couple times on over the FaceTime camera when I was on Wi-Fi. But anyway, so I had only $800 at the time. I was trying to sell the house to get money, and in the meantime, I took the vacation and I met this girl, and I had these injuries with my rib cage and my finger. And then one night, I finally got her to go out with me to grab a sushi uh, or some food. We went to the hibachi place. It's called the Fuji hibachi grill or something in Kill Devil Hills. So we went there, and I got so full of that hibachi. Uh, yeah, you have the Japanese cook making all the tricks and doing the lava, and so and the volcano out of the onions. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about, at the Outer Banks hibachi steakhouse. So we went there and had the cook perform for us, and I got so stuffed because it was like really a lot of food. So I got so stuffed that I suddenly couldn't breathe. The rib cage started hurting me so bad I couldn't even take a breath. I was like, I can't breathe. I'm having a heart attack, or whatever. I mean, and I was like this, It was so embarrassing. I was so embarrassed in front of her, and she was pretty good. She was blonde hair. She was like 20 years younger than me, right? She was like 21. I'm like 41, you know. So uh, and I was so embarrassed. I couldn't breathe. I was in so much pain. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. And she's like, go to hospital, just to make sure. And I knew there's nothing wrong with me. It's just something, it's probably like a pinched nerve in between the ribs, and that's what it was, or something, or some kind of pulled muscle, or I don't know, maybe arthritis. I don't know, but I knew I don't have a heart attack or what's it called? Okay, never mind. So I drove her back home, and we switched the bikes. That's another story, because she had a old bike. All these students there, they ride the bikes back and forth to work, and she had this old bike, and there was something, I don't remember exactly what was wrong with the bike, but I was supposed to fix it or something for her. But instead of course I fixed it, but I've decided something else. I'm gonna do something else. So I went to a Walmart store, and I bought her a new bike, the same bike, but it was pink. It's like a girl's bike, and it was like $70. So I've decided I'm gonna buy her a new bike, surprise her and see what she says. So I bought that bike. It was another day, another time. I bought that bike, and I brought it to her hotel where she was working, and I locked it, outside the hotel, and I just left her a message at the uh, front desk that her bike is fixed. And then And then of course she emailed me that she was surprised, and then we got together and she told me that she wants her old bike back, that she doesn't want this new bike. So we switched the bikes, and uh, and uh, and then I went to the hospital. All right, and because I used to live there at the Outer Banks, I already had a record in the hospital, so they already knew my address and my name, and they thought that I still live there, but it's been many years uh, prior. So I went there. I told them my problem with my ribs and my finger, and uh, they put me on X-ray and EKG again, examined me, and uh, uh, because the doctor thought that I might be having the pneumothorax, but it wasn't it. And on the X-ray, uh, it showed that I might be having arthritis in my spine, like in between my shoulder blades. He said that I have a starting arthritis there, which kind of scared me. And I have these pains and aches in my joints and in my muscles, um, like my whole life. Okay, I don't feel well my whole life because I have this stiffness in my joints and muscles, and I have to like constantly pop my back and pop my joints, and I have this constant need to be stretching, and I, I I feel like my whole life there's something wrong with me. Okay, but I don't think I have arthritis or any other autoimmune disease. All right, well, let me fast forward. Okay, but the story with the girl, well, it didn't go anywhere. She didn't want to hang out with me, and she didn't want to talk to me. She didn't give a fuck about me. I was obviously too old for them to hang out with them, so they never called me, they never emailed me, and invited me to any of their parties. So that didn't work out. So after like almost 2 weeks, I left, and then I followed up on that X-ray, and I went to a general uh, practitioners, a doctor in Fayetteville. I went to a couple of them. The first one said that the aches and pains I have are just normal wear and tear. I showed him the X-ray, and he told me that I don't have any arthritis, that it's a normal wear and tear, because I'm 40 years old, and and still I had him do some blood work too on autoimmune disease. I paid, I didn't have any money, any extra money to be spent on doctor visits, but I did sacrifice a little bit of money for this, because I was trying to find out what the fuck is wrong with me all these years, and basically all my life. So every time I go to doctor, I tell them all my symptoms, and all the problems with me, and the doctors like never pay attention what I have to say, and they always tell me like some kind of bullshit, like I'm old, and it's normal, there's nothing wrong with me, it's all in my head, and I'm a hypochondriac, you know so the doctors never, in my life, in my entire life, the doctors never really listened to me, to my problems. And at that time, when I've been going through all these issues again, and I was like, I always feel like I'm gonna die. I feel terrible. I have the panic attacks and all that, and I feel like crap. And the doctors always tell me I'm healthy, and it's really frustrating when they do that. And so I had this one doctor. I had him run me a test on autoimmune diseases, and it came back negative. And then, so I kind of gave up on that, and then I, kept working on the house, and I felt bad again. So I went to doctor again, and I was like, everything hurts me, like muscles, joints. I can't even, I had inflammation like in my shoulder. I couldn't even move my shoulder. My shoulder, my elbows were like inflamed like shit, like crazy. Like everything was hurting me, and my stomach was hurting me, my guts. Everything was hurting me. So I went to doctor again, and again I was telling him all my problems, and he was literally laughing at me. Like I could see the expression in his face. Like he didn't even listen to me. He was like he was like looking, and he wasn't even listening to me. He was probably on vacation somewhere else, and he literally was laughing at me, and he was like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to get you like a MRI scan of your whole body, or what do you want me to do? And I was like, why are you asking me what do I need to do? I mean, you should be the one to tell me what I should do. I mean, I am not a doctor. Why are you asking me what I should do? And he was like, I can do MRI, the whole body scan, or CT scan, or ultrasound. So he wrote me all these scans, and I had to go to a different private imaging facility. And when I showed them all these scans, they told me it's gonna cost like $3,500. And I'm like, fuck it, what's I don't have money for that. So I'm never gonna get cured. I'm never gonna get any kind of diagnosis on my condition. So I asked the lady, like, what is the cheapest what is the cheapest scan out of all these? And it was like the abdominal area ultrasound scan. So I scheduled for that. It was like $120, and I had my abdominal scanned, like your liver and stomach and kidneys, and I don't know what else they can see. So I had that scanned, but the thing is, I never went back to that doctor to get the results. Okay, so I never knew. I don't know till this day what the results of that scan was. So so basically I just wasted $120 for nothing, and this was back in, I think I did all these back in 2016, or maybe early 2017. I've been in I was, so while I was working on this house, I was about 2 times in emergency room because I thought I'm having a heart attack, and it was the panic attacks or whatever. And I was 2 times at a general practitionist, and I was 1 time at the Outer Banks hospital because of my rib cage. Okay, so during this house, I was 5 times at a doctor, and then because I didn't feel good, and I still was going through all this, and so I decided I'm still gonna get some blood work done. Okay, and I've done some research online, and like what could be wrong with me, with all the symptoms. And one of the diseases, like there's all kinds of different diseases could be wrong with me, and one of the diseases was Lyme disease. Okay, and I kept thinking, back in time, like since I was kid, that this might be actually it. I mean, I have all the symptoms of like a Lyme disease, or chronic Lyme disease. Maybe when I was a kid, I got bitten by a tick, and I got infected, and I even remember since when I was like 8, 9 years old, I started being like tired, because I remember sleeping in school, and I didn't want to do anything, and I was locked up in my room all the time, and so I kind of suspected that I might have a Lyme disease. So what I did, uh, I actually found a website that does the blood tests independently, so you don't have to go to the doctor. You can just pay that, order that online, and then go to like a nearest laboratory and get the blood drawn, and they send it out for testing. So I did that. I don't remember how much I paid for it. $200 maybe. Anyway, so I did that test and it came back negative. All right, which is of course frustrating because you don't feel good, and all the blood tests and everything still comes back negative. They even did me the God damn it, I forget words, this test um, in the hospital, and it came back negative to the thyroid. Yeah, they did me the thyroid test and it came back negative. The diabetes came back negative, because the nerve pain, because all my nerves hurt, and you can have a nerve pain from diabetes, but I don't have any diabetes. So all my blood work and all my tests came back negative. So when that came back negative, and when the last doctor was making fun of me, I was like, I'm never gonna go to the doctor again. I'm like, fuck it. Whatever it is that I have with all the symptoms and the heart arrhythmia and all that, I mean, I'm just gonna let it one day just knock me out, and that's it, you know. And now, independently on what I'm saying about this Lyme disease testing, when I moved uh, over here, and I reunited with my sister, and she told me that she recently was at a doctor with a swollen thumb on her foot. It got swollen, red, and painful. So she went to doctor, and doctor told her it might be the gout. Okay, so she got the blood work done on the gout, and the gout came back negative. And the doctor said, out of her own initiative, she said it might be the Lyme disease. So she got tested for the Lyme disease, and my sister got tested positive on Lyme disease. And it also might be the same case as me. When we were little, we used to live at a village by the lake, and we were always like running in the forest and running in the high grass, and we had ticks, now and then. And that's probably also the same case when she was little girl, like maybe 8 years old, 6. She got bitten by a tick, and she got a Lyme disease. So my sister might also have it like her whole life. She also might have the Lyme disease in her, like her almost her whole life, right? She's 29 now. So my sister is 29, and she just got recently tested for Lyme disease. All right. So it got me thinking, maybe I should reconsider this, and go to her doctor, and get tested for Lyme disease again. So that's what I did. Uh, Actually, yesterday I gave the blood, and I'm just waiting for the results. Okay, next week I'll know. But funny thing happened with the doctor. See, my sister has been seeing this doctor. It's a woman. Her name is Petra, uh, and she's been seeing her, for some time. And they didn't know. They actually knew each other from since they were kids. Okay, so when I went there last week on Friday for the first time to register, I told her, the doctor, I told her that I'm new here, and but that you know my sister. She comes here, and she got a positive test. She got tested positive on with the Lyme disease, and she said, "Oh yeah, I remember. That's my sister." Oh really? Yeah. And do you know? Do you have a brother? Do you have a brother also? Oh yeah. I have a brother. And she goes like, I know your entire family from, where we used to live on the lake. We had uh, a vacation uh, cottage there, and I know your sister. We've been playing together when we were little girls, and she didn't even know that that's her. So we actually know each other. We didn't even know, So she knew my sister, she knew my brother, but my sister was going there, and they didn't know they actually know each other from when they were kids. So when I was there, she actually realized that we actually know each other. So she knew my brother, my sister, my mother, my dad. She knew that my dad committed suicide. I can talk about that later. So my dad committed suicide when I was like 23 years old, and so she knew everything, but she didn't know me really in person, because ever since I was a young young teenager, uh, I wasn't living at home. I was at a campus, uh, you know, so I wasn't really living at home. I only was coming back home on the weekends. And then when I got older, when I got like 16, 17, I stopped coming back home for the weekends at all. So I was like ever since I was 16 years old, I was gone out of my house. I didn't want to stay there because I hated it at home, because my parents were always arguing, and the living conditions were not good. But I can talk about it later. so so the doctor actually knew my whole family, and okay, she said, okay, let's get you tested for everything. Let's get you tested for the Lyme disease, and the thyroid again, and everything else. So at least this whole situation right now, that I'm broke, and I don't have a job, and I still didn't sell the house, and I'm like uh, stuck, and I got nothing else to do. So so at least it's good uh, for something that I can go to a doctor and get tested, if there really is something wrong with me, uh, or if it's just all just mental, uh, if it's just uh, all the symptoms I have, if it's just caused by a stress or fatigue, or because I'm old, you know. So that's what I'm. That's my quest right now, to find out. So next week I'll be a little bit smarter on 24th of February. I'm going back for the results. Um, so this was a part 4 of my life story, and talk to you later.